Child care provider June 2 is suing ex-client Pat Meyer for unpaid babysitting fees and defamation of character. Pat claims June is running an unsafe daycare.
All rise. Yes, case number 100 on the calendar in the matter of Two versus Meyer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Ms. Two, you provided daycare for Miss Meyer's baby, child, toddler?
Yes, 4 years old at the time.
And it is your claim that she owes you some money. She owes you some money for daycare that you actually provided.
Right.
And then punitive damages because you claim that she defamed you. When, after you sued her for the money that she owed you in small claims court, she called the state and reported that your daycare facility was substandard.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what the case is about. And Miss Meyer says she had every right to call the state with regard to the unsanitary and unsafe conditions in your house, because that's why she removed her child from your daycare facility, and she doesn't owe you anything.
Yes.
When did you bring your 4-year-old to Miss Chu to babysit?
January 17th.
Of
2005, yes, ma'am.
And how did you find her?
A co-worker of mine had her child in her care.
And she was satisfied?
Well, she worked late hours and she didn't have no other choice, ma'am.
Well, you wouldn't have put your child in a daycare facility unless you said to this co-worker of yours, are you satisfied?
Quite honestly, I was desperate to find a daycare. I just started at my job in the beginning of December, and I needed to have daycare. Since I just started, I was not financially free to pay $450 up front for other daycares.
So?
So I talked to her, and she said, well, go ahead and try it. Mrs. Chu talked to me. She said, right now I'm kind of full. I have too many children, but it's okay. I can take him. It's okay. I got myself in trouble before.
How many children did she have at the time?
I'm not sure. Like
You
I said,
didn't ask?
I wasn't in the daycare facility.
What do you mean you weren't in the facility?
We just kind of met at a stable and talked about stuff like this.
You met where?
At a stable. I was going to buy her horse. That's how we met initially.
I thought you met initially through a co-worker.
Yes, ma'am. The co-worker has a horse, Miss Chu has a horse, and I wanted to purchase a horse. Her
You
horse
wanted
was
to
for
buy
sale.
a horse?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't have $450 to pay up front for a daycare and you wanted to buy a horse?
Yes, ma'am.
Explain that to me.
I was looking into buying a horse. But
For what?
To ride, ma'am.
Keep going.
Like I said, I went to look for daycare.
Oh, Fred, last time you spoke to me, you were looking for a horse.
Yes, ma'am.
And
From
you
there
met her
we
at a
talked.
stable. And you hadn't been to the daycare facility yet. Stop
No, ma'am.
playing around with your hair.
I called her on a Saturday. I said, you know, I know you have a daycare. Is it possible for Jason to attend your daycare? She said, come on by on Monday. I went there, dropped him off.
Who would babysat for your son when you started working?
His godmother.
Well, what happened to her babysitting?
She had another job coming up that she was working, and she said she can't do it no more.
So you found her and you dropped him off without ever having seen the inside of the facility?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a husband?
Yes, ma'am.
What does he do for a living?
He's working in retail.
Did you end up buying her horse?
No, ma'am.
You have a horse?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you buy it?
Late February.
How much did you pay for it?
$600.
Where do you keep it?
Sally Hill.
At a stable?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much do you pay to board the horse at the stable?
$225.
A month?
Yes, ma'am.
You got your priorities a little bit backwards, Miss Mayer. You got your priorities backwards. Before you take a horse, you find an appropriate daycare for your child. Not one where you don't have to pay up front. Because according to the figures that you just gave me, you had $600 to buy a horse and $225 to board the horse, and you didn't have $450 to pay for what you might consider an appropriate daycare up front. You have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
2.
How old are they?
15 and 10.
So you got a lot of extra money. Must have a lot of extra money if you have a horse. Oy. Now, I'm not getting into how many children you're licensed for. I'm not getting into any of that. Just tell me, how long have you been a daycare provider?
7 years.
When did she first bring her son into your daycare?
In January.
And how long did you take care of him?
She had him out for a week, and Good Friday. And then she brought him back, and it was April 4th, and he was in my home April 4th and April 5th. And on April 5th, that was the last day that she brought him. So,
how much did she owe you when she took her son out on the 5th?
She owed me for the 28th week, and then she also owed me for that week that he was in my care, but she took him out.
Okay, let me see the contract that you signed. And it's $85 a week.
Yes, ma'am.
So she owes you, according to you, for 2 weeks.
She owes me for 2 weeks and then a 2 weeks notice, which is also in the contract because she quit without any kind of notice to me. She sent me a letter on 4/6 by certified mail saying, thank you for your services. Basically, I don't need you anymore.
Can I see the letter she
Sure.
sent?
And then I returned with another letter to her explaining what I was expecting of her at that time. And in all honesty, Judge, I wasn't going to do another thing with her because when you're a daycare, you are...
Right. I got it. But then she went and filed a complaint.
Right. And I've been in business a long time, and I am inspected by the state and the health department 6 months every year, and they have never had a problem with my home.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was with me 5 months, or 4 months after that.
No, she wasn't.
Well-
Didn't start. Listen to me.
Okay.
Don't be a fast talker. I don't like fast talkers.
And later today,
How old are you, Mr. English?
I'll be 48 in 2 weeks.
And how old are you, Miss Murray?
I'm 25.
Okay. Me.
You got to find friends your own age.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Child care provider June 2 says ex-client Pat Meyer owes for daycare fees and defamation of character as a result of filing false charges with the state. Pat claims June's parrot bit her son.
Go ahead.
Okay, the reason why we pulled Jason out of her care was because her macaw parrot bit Jason. He had the chance to walk across the dining room table, walk up his arm, and bite him because he wouldn't let go of his pretzel. I've got the pictures for it.
Okay.
And another child also bit him in the arm, and we just had enough.
When was the parrot bite?
6 months prior.
Just a second.
Oh.
When was the parrot bite?
It happened in March.
And what about the bite from the child?
The bite happened on the 5th of April. That's where we pulled him out.
Tell me about the bite.
The bite from the child?
Yes.
Okay. Well, and let me just notate, the bite from the bird was not a bite, and he was not on my dining room table.
I don't care where he was. Shouldn't have been around children.
But
Shouldn't have been around children.
okay, well, I'll agree with that.
Good.
Okay. As far as the bite from the child,
But that didn't precipitate her removing the child from your care.
right?
'Cause
She
if
was
the-
with me 5 months or 4 months after that.
No, she wasn't.
Well-
Didn't start. Listen to me.
Okay.
Don't be a fast talker. I don't like fast talkers. Child started with you in January, February, and March.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 months.
Correct.
So don't say it was 6 months before, because 6 months the child wasn't in your care.
That's true, but
Okay. But she still brought the child back after the incident with the bird, but did not want to return with the child almost immediately after the bite.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll explain that too.
Go ahead.
Okay. JJ was in my home, and that is why I brought my daughter today, because she's a witness to his behavior. And I have a little boy who is hearing impaired. And when the little boy came into the house that day, JJ immediately knocked him down. I mean, just pushed him down for no reason. I have basically 2 rooms, and each go into each other. And the next thing I know, the little boy who is hearing impaired comes running out of that room again because JJ pushed him down again. She didn't also tell you the story that her child punched that little boy in the face.
That day, on the 4th,
Yes, 5th.
on the 5th, the little boy retaliated by biting him.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what
Where
happened.
were you?
I was standing right there. And next thing I know, her son punches, and he grabs his arm and bites him that quick. I mean, it happens so very quick.
Okay, fine. Now, mother, she's upset. Child was bitten by another child. Pulls the child out. Fine. You called the authorities?
I made
You called the authorities?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I don't remember. I really don't. Maybe 2 weeks afterwards.
Why?
Because I don't feel that she's taken the care that she should by the daycare that she has for the children.
Well, why didn't you call the authorities the next day?
I took the day off Wednesday to find a new daycare, and
That doesn't answer my question.
I just didn't have the time.
Well, what inspired you to call 2 weeks later? When did you receive the small claims summons that she filed against you? All that's documented, so
Yes,
you might as well...
I don't know the date.
But the phone call that you made to the authorities was after that.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes.
Now I'd like to see the report from the authorities when they came to do the inspection.
The first one's the dog catcher report, and the second one is the health inspector.
Who's taking care of your son now?
He's at home with his siblings and Mrs. Oliver again.
What did you do between the 6th of April and the 27th of May?
Oh, I'm sorry. He was in koala daycare.
How much did they charge you?
$95 a week.
And if you were unhappy with this Tuesday daycare, you could have put him in for an extra $10 a week to this other daycare.
I wasn't aware of that daycare at that time.
You should have been. If you spent a little more time choosing an appropriate daycare rather than shopping around for a horse, you could have been aware of the best daycare in your vicinity. I have, very little patience for somebody who spends any extra time on anything else when they have 3 children looking for quality daycare, which should be your first priority. First, not third, not second.
At that time, I was thinking I was doing the best I could by giving him
You don't
a
tell
home
me the
daycare.
best you could. The best you could is, you just told me that everybody else wanted up front $450, and she didn't, so you chose her. And yet at the same time, you were looking for a horse, and you bought a horse for $600.
Yes, ma'am.
Same month.
No, ma'am, it was the end of February.
A month later.
Yes, ma'am.
She owes you $340 for the daycare.
Yes, ma'am.
She also owes you $300 because I believe she filed this in retaliation and nothing more for your filing a small claim summons against her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When I turned around to put his jacket on, I noticed the injury on his neck, and I asked her what happened. And next thing, she pulls out this huge bird that's almost taller than my child.
My parrot is not as big as her child. And not only that, I've had kids that I've had since they were 5 months old and still have, and they're 4 years old.
Obviously, I made a mistake, and I will never do that again.
Truth does tell. She'd rather spend money on her horse than her child.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of English versus Murray. Step forward, please.
Bartender Dana English is suing his former friend, 25-year-old bartender Lara Murray, for a series of unpaid loans. Dana claims Lara used him.
Mr. English, you claim a series of loans to the defendant who was a friend of yours.
Yes.
Ms. Murray says that you were a kind friend. You gave her money. That's exactly what you did. You gave her money, and everything that you gave her were gifts. There was never any intention for her to repay those gifts, and it only became a problem when she rebuffed your romantic intentions.
No.
Okay. How old are you, Mr. English?
I'll be 48 in 2 weeks.
And how old are you, Miss Murray?
I'm 25.
Okay. Me.
You got to find friends your own age, Mr. English. Then this sort of thing doesn't happen. According to what I read in your complaint, you hired Miss Murray to work as a hostess in a restaurant that you manage.
She was hired at the restaurant I worked at, yes.
When?
October
Of what year?
2003.
When was the first loan you made her?
The insurance payment of October of 04,
How much?
$120.
And what was the arrangement, according to you, for repayment of that loan?
Lara said she would repay me the money because she didn't have it. She wasn't working that much.
So she said eventually she'll pay
Yes.
you back. When was the next loan?
It was for December, also a car insurance payment of $120.
December of 2004.
Yes.
Between October and December, had she paid you any money back of the first loan?
No.
When was the next loan?
The next loan was a car company called about the loan for her car. They didn't say it was her car. It was a $300 payment that I made, put the account number on it, and it was for her car, not mine. When I told Lara about this, she said she would repay me the $300.
Just a minute. So you made a car payment and they put it in the wrong account?
Yes.
Oh.
It had her account number on it, not mine, on the check.
How did you have her account number?
Because I said the loan company called me and told me she was behind on her
Why would they
car
call you?
payment because I had co-signed the loan.
Oh, just when did you co-sign the loan, sir?
That would be in September of 2004. That was the second car I co-signed for her.
When was the first car that you co-signed for her?
May of 2003.
May I say something?
Not yet.
Okay.
What other monies did you loan to her, sir?
Lara came to live with me towards the end of January, and she needed clothes for work. We went out shopping, and I spent $118 on clothes for her to go to work.
Between October of 2004, when you gave her the first loan, and January of 2005, when you loaned her money to buy clothes, when she came to live with you, had she paid you back any of the original $120?
No, ma'am.
You get where I'm going, Mr. English?
I was a very good friend, and I got used.
Fine. So what are you doing in court?
Lara told me she'd pay me back. She just then said, I called her, she called me one night and said, sue me, so I sued her.
Now I'll hear you.
Well, I started working at the restaurant in October of 2002. So that's when I met him, and I've been friends with him ever since. I got my car in May of 2003, and I was short some money, and he said that if I needed it, that he could help me out. Anytime he'd buy me Christmas presents, birthday presents,
He's
he'd buy
not
me
talking
cards.
about Christmas or birthday presents, Miss Murray.
Oh, I know.
He's talking about cash.
Yeah. Anytime I needed help, that I was saying that I needed help with my family, he was always there. He was always calling me, coming over, helping take my aunt to the grocery store. He doesn't have any other friends. I have a lot of friends, and when I started hanging out with my other friends more and not hanging out with him, his feelings got hurt, and then that's when he would start saying, well, I want this back, or I want to hang out with you at least one day a week. Then it started getting weird, and I started pulling back because I looked to him like a father figure. He is. He's like a father figure.
Why did you move into his house in January?
I only stayed. I was fighting with my family. I didn't move in. I was only there a couple days.
She was there
How
for
long?
approximately 4 to 5 weeks.
No, I don't think
Off and
that's
on,
true.
yes.
Off and on,
But she was there.
not straight.
No.
She went out and would stay away for days at a time and then come back.
Right.
Mr. English, you play around with a baby. This is you get babyish behavior.
Well, when she said she's going to repay me, I expected to be repaid.
Well, Mr. English, I have to determine whether you had a legitimate expectation of being repaid. And when somebody borrows money in October and they don't pay you back, you don't lend them more money in December,
Well, when she keeps
and more, I'm speaking, and more money in January. You don't do that because then you don't have an expectation of being paid back. Eventually she'll pay you back if you live that long. Not from this court. You gotta learn, wisen up. She's a baby. She's still out there, you know, growing up. You're all grown up. Fortunately, the whole business cost you $797?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you say, $797. It was a cheap lesson. Is she making car payments?
No.
What happened to the car?
The car was repoed. It's being auctioned off today to make up the money that she owes on the car loans and the car being towed. She totaled the car. She wrecked both cars.
Find a nice contemporary friend. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Filmmaker Patricia Height is suing physical therapist Sylvia Schuler for hitting her in the face during an argument in a restaurant. Sylvia says Patricia was harassing her while she was breastfeeding her baby.
Your Honor, case number 110 on the calendar in the matter of Height versus Schuler. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Ms. Height, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you in a restaurant.
Correct.
You are suing her for damages, not so much for the injury that you sustained, because she, according to you, hit you in the face, but for the emotional distress that you suffered. You didn't have any medical bills, did you?
A few.
Ms. Schuler said that she did, in fact, strike you, but that is only after you lunged at her. So tell me when this happened and what precipitated this altercation.
On December 27th last year, my husband's relatives were in from out of town, and we went out to eat some Mexican food. We were sitting in a crowded lobby. I had a party of 12, 7 children and 5 adults. And I was sitting talking to my husband's aunt, and this woman walked in and plopped herself down on the bench next to us and proceeded to lift up her sweater and put this child at her breast. And I sat there for a minute and trying to talk to my husband's aunt, and I eventually said, you know, I really don't think this is the proper place to be doing that in a crowded restaurant lobby. And she said, mind your own business, and I'll do whatever I want, and if you don't like it, don't look. So I looked at my husband's aunt, and we opened our eyes kind of wide at one another. And I said, well, at least you could take this to the restroom. And she said, I'm not going in that restroom. It's filthy.
So you kept on going back and forth after she cursed at you? Are you telling me you said something else to her?
Well, I did. I said, at least you could go in, excuse yourself to the restroom. And she says, I'm not going in that restroom. It's filthy in there. That shows what kind of a mother you'd be. And I said, lady, I gave birth to 4 children, all of which I breastfed. But when I did it in a discreet manner and never in a public forum like this. And at that time, the hostess came up and told us our table was ready. And I got up, and I had forgotten to pick my bag up off the floor. And when I turned around to pick up my bag, she came up out of her chair and hit me across the side of the face.
Did you sit down and have dinner?
No, we didn't.
You left?
Correct.
Where did you go?
Outside. My husband had asked the manager to call the police, and he said, if you want to call the police, take your business outside. So we did.
And did you call the police?
Yes.
You have a police report?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please. What kind of medical attention did you require?
The next morning on Sunday, I went and saw my primary physician, and he checked out my face, and the next day I went and had an x-ray of my jaw.
And it was okay?
It's okay. I was in a lot of pain for about 2 weeks, and my jaw, after she hit me, my jaw, it didn't sit right on my face, and I'm telling my husband, this woman just hit me, and I was holding this side of my face because it hurt more over here for some reason. My doctor told me it was a whiplash effect. And she looked up at me from her bench and said, what the hell are you holding that side of your face for? I hit you on the other side.
All right, Miss Shula, let me hear your version of the events.
Okay.
How old is your baby?
My baby at the time had just turned a year old. She was probably approaching 14 months. And I had my 3-year-old son as well.
Okay. Tell me what happened at the Mexican restaurant on the 27th.
It's ironic. We had a choice of like 6 places. We chose this place. We went in, and the lobby was just packed. I went up to the hostess, and I said, how long of a wait do you think it is? And she said, 5 minutes. I said, oh, that's great, because my kids aren't going to be able to wait very long. And I turned around to tell my husband, and as she said,
which is the husband?
My husband is. And as she told me that, the plaintiff's husband was sitting where I eventually sat, and he said, you've sat 40 people since we've been here. And I thought he was yelling at me, so I just kind of noticed that he said that and, just made a mental note, told my husband, it's only going to be 5 minutes, we can do this. And the plaintiff's husband had stood up and demanded to see the manager because he felt they were waiting too long. And he left his seat, so I sat down in his seat. And I started to breastfeed Aubrey because she started to kind of squawk, and we don't like our kids to cause disturbance in public, so started to nurse her very carefully. However, when I started...
Tell me what you mean very carefully.
I always am very careful not to be real obvious. I had on a thick, heavy cotton beige sweater, and I get my bra down so that it's ready, and then I get her right up to me, and then I make sure the sweater was kind of nuzzled around her face. And I'll tell you how discreet it was in a second, but when I began breastfeeding her, they were talking to the manager, and he told them, he said, yes, we had to clean the tables. And the plaintiff says to him, and I'm sitting here, I don't have anything to do, so I'm obviously listening. And she says, well, what did you have to do? Take them out back and refinish them? And I just thought, oh, these people are really mad, because that was the second comment I heard. So the man sitting next to me, eventually I found out was in her party. But my daughter was kind of flicking her leg like this, and it kind of got his attention. So he leaned way over into my space and said, hi, honey, what's your name? And she kind of waved at him, but never came off the breast. I had my sweater around. He went back to his seat. I didn't want to embarrass him and say, excuse me, sir, but I'm breastfeeding, I didn't want to I just wanted it just to go. Then she says, well, sure, just whip it out in front of the whole lobby. And she didn't see me whip anything out because I had been breastfeeding for some time. And the poor man says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even know she was nursing."
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When she raised her sweater, she exposed her breast.
She got so close, she was this close, and I slapped her while I was sitting and breastfeeding my daughter. I didn't know what. I was afraid.
Sticks and stones, but you can't use
But I didn't
physical
even
force.
have sticks and stones.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patricia Height says Sylvia Schuler hit her in the face. Sylvia says Patricia was harassing her because she was breastfeeding her baby in a restaurant.
Go ahead.
So she says another few comments like, "You should go to the bathroom." And I finally said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but you are extremely rude." Because I'd seen her being rude to everyone, and now she was being rude to me. And I did have a dialogue with her. I'm sorry, I don't use words like, okay, or I don't talk like that. That's not in my vocabulary. I'm not saying I've never cursed, but I don't curse to people I don't know, most definitely. And she said I should go to the bathroom, and I said, "Where would you like me to sit in the bathroom? On the toilet? I can't nurse my child on the toilet." And I said, "There's really nowhere to nurse." I said, "I guess you don't believe in nursing." And she said, "I nursed 5 children, but I was much more discreet." And I asked her, I said, "Well, what can you see?" And she just rolled her eyes. She couldn't see anything. So my husband says to her husband, "You know, I'm sorry if my wife's breastfeeding is offending you, but she does have the right to feed my daughter wherever she would like." I'm not sure of all their dialogue because they were over there. She kept at me. And so my husband turned and said to her, he said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but if it offends you, look away." And that's when her husband reeled around and said, "You don't talk to my wife that way, and I'm going to kick your effing ASS." And then that went on, and I'm just kind of watching going, oh no. And I'm getting very worried, what's going to happen?
It was getting out of hand.
It was. And so the manager,
Who's the manager?
this is the manager of the restaurant.
Come up here. Tell me your name.
Peter Holder.
Did you observe this incident?
Parts of it.
Did you observe when Miss Schuler hit Mrs. Height?
No.
If you didn't observe this assault, why are you here?
To help shed some light on the disposition and the nature of the plaintiffs and how aggressive they were.
I'd like to hear that. Go ahead.
Rarely do you have I encountered somebody as hostile and aggressive as this.
Who?
The plaintiffs. They when they came in, we told them it would be about 20 minutes, and for a table, it takes you have to put a certain number of tables together for 12 people.
Did they have a reservation?
No.
Okay. So you told them it would be about 20 minutes.
Yes. And 10 minutes later, the hostess came and got me. I was back in the kitchen and said, this man would like to see the manager. He's very upset. So I went out and, how can I help you? And he says, you're seating all these people ahead of us. We've been here way past 20 minutes. It had been 10 minutes. And I said, well, a lot of our tables only hold 2 and 4 people, and that's who we're seating. We have a place all picked out for you. We're waiting for one more party to leave. And that's when Patricia, I believe her name is, said...
Mrs. Height.
Mrs. Height said, what do you have to do, take them out and revarnish them? And I went, whoa. And right after the incident, the plaintiff's husband threatened using that language him again, and that's when I asked him to leave.
What did you hear?
I should kick you.
So they were angry?
Very.
Okay, have a seat. All right, Ms. Schuler, tell me what happened after Mr. and Mrs. Height's name was called and indicated that their table was ready.
I believe what got her so angry was that her friend sitting next to me was apologizing profusely, saying, and I didn't realize he was with them until this. And he said, I'm so sorry, and I don't know what's going on with them, and I don't know why they're acting like this. And I said, do you know those people? And he was saying yes, and then their table got called. So he was apologizing to me. I was talking to him. The plaintiff and the aunt stood up. The aunt passed. The plaintiff came over to us and said to him, stand up. You don't need to apologize to her. And as he passed me, she lunged at me and said, he didn't come here to see the likes of you. And she got so close. She was this close, and I slapped her while I was sitting and breastfeeding my daughter, still breastfeeding, and I slapped her because she came so close. I didn't know what. I was afraid.
Well, you know that you can't do that.
I really didn't. I swear to God. I will swear to God, I did not know I couldn't defend myself.
Well, I don't think that is a question of defending yourself.
Well,
but, you know, you can't use sticks and stones, but you can't use
But I
physical
didn't even
force.
have sticks and stones.
Miss Schuler, you know exactly what I'm saying to you, madam. Don't be a passive-aggressive with me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patricia Height says fellow restaurant patron Sylvia Schuler hit her in the face.
I mean, if you saw a man sitting there and scratching himself because he had an itch, would you have the gall to say to him, can't you do that someplace else? Can't you go into the bathroom? Why don't you go do that in the car? You wouldn't say that to him.
Well,
you wouldn't say that to him. What you would do is you would take your children, if you believed it was offensive, and you would go outside. You would say, I can't believe that guy can't be more discreet about scratching himself.
Well, when she raised her sweater, she exposed her breast, and that's what I had a problem with in a public place.
And I want to tell you something. I don't necessarily believe that that's true. I believe that that's a convenient thing for you to say now, and I don't believe that she cursed at you, Ms. Height. I do not believe that you said to her very sweetly, could you please do that, or don't you think you could do that someplace a little more discreetly? And she turned around and called you the names that you attribute to her a moment ago. I don't believe that that happened.
Can I let my husband testify?
Oh, you can, but I won't believe him either. I don't believe she said that to you.
She did.
No, I don't believe she said that to you. I believe that she kept going back and forth because it would make sense if she said, this is what I'm going to do, and then you came back to her and said to her, can't you just go to the restroom? Because if somebody came back and cursed at me like that, I would say if I were a normal person, gee, this person's a little bit off, I'm not going to have anything else to do with her. But you didn't do that. You came right back and you said to her, according to you, after she cursed at you in a vile way, you said to her, calmly, you could at least go into the restroom. That's not what I'm hearing from the manager of the restaurant that was your demeanor on that day.
He didn't.
Now, that doesn't mean, madam, that you have the right to put your hands on her. You don't. She has absolutely no right to tell you that you can't breastfeed a child, which is a perfectly natural thing. Some people prefer to do it privately. They feel as if for everybody's sake, including the child's sake. The child was 14 months old. Perhaps we could do this privately. I can go out into the car. I can go into a private corner. I don't have to be in the middle of a lobby with 50 people around me and breastfeeding my child. But that's your prerogative. You know, you say it's a natural occurrence. It is a natural occurrence, and you can do it. There are lots of things that are natural that you don't necessarily do, you know, in the middle of Times Square. However, you understand what I'm saying to you?
I do.
I'm not being judgmental. I'm not being at the risk of offending the La Leches. I did not breastfeed my children. They grew up just fine. My generation didn't do that. But all my children and their children have all been breastfed. And they whip it out just around anywhere they want.
I'm just trying to get over.
Well, you're just trying.
I'm just trying to get over. I'm not being judgmental.
Well, it's not your prerogative to tell her what to do. And I don't believe that you were hurt either. I believe she slapped you and your pride was hurt. But you can't hurt her. Now, I'm going to get to your counterclaim, because I think that your counterclaim is also a little bit of nonsense, but I'm prepared to hear it.
Okay.
It's for emotional distress.
Well, I have expenses. That's all I'm asking for.
What expenses?
I had a lot of consultation with an attorney because I was supposed to be arraigned on March 5th.
Yes.
I was arrested.
She made a citizen's arrest because you assaulted her.
Exactly. So
And?
I was very concerned. I was a nervous wreck. I've never had any legal problems in my life.
Should have kept your hands to yourself.
May I ask you a question? Because I'm very interested in the answer to this question.
Sure.
How close can someone get to you aggressively? How close can an aggressor get before you have the right to protect yourself?
Where was your husband when all this was going on?
Watching my 3-year-old, who is very active.
Is what you're telling me that you were fighting back and forth with this lady and things had gotten so aggressive that she was cursing you, she was screaming at you, your husband got involved, you got involved with your husband, and yet your husband left you to go watch your 3-year-old? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Yeah. You put your hands on her. She has the right to make a citizen's arrest. So if that's the expense that you want because you consulted with an attorney, I'm going to deny that application.
Okay.
And I think that she had no right to put her hands on you, and you have to be compensated for that. But you have to be compensated commensurate with the damage. If you had it to do all over again, would you have moved your seat?
Well, she had only sat down like 5 minutes before. And
Would you have moved your seat instead of starting in with her?
No, I probably wouldn't have.
Well, then you got a problem. You're not supposed to look for confrontation. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to try to avoid confrontation if you can. You know, life is short. You're out having a good time, you're out having dinner, you're waiting for a table. There are 12 of you. According to you, 7 children and 4 adults. You're out to have a good time. Why would you want to start anything that's going to put a damper on that good time?
I didn't think that it would. I didn't think that just kindly asking someone to take that into another part of the restaurant or outside would have caused so much her to become so angry.
Well, just a second. But she responded to you, and she said, it's none of your business. Right? Let's say I agree. Let's say that that's what she said to you. It's none of your business. Let's say she used all the expletives. Then why did you continue the conversation with her?
Well, I was sitting with my husband's 70-year-old aunt and uncle.
Your 70-year-old aunt and uncle didn't complain. You did. All right, I think you're entitled to be compensated. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10. That's all. Counterclaims dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Melody Sear is suing her neighbor, or Zanger, for damage to her home caused by his peacocks, a dog attack, and defamation of character.
Hush, hush. Your Honor, this is case number 118 on the calendar in the matter of Sear versus Zanger. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Sear, you and Mr. Zanger are neighbors.
Yes, we are.
But I gather the properties are spread out.
They're very far apart.
How many acres do you have?
I have 6.5.
And Mr. Zanger, how many acres do you have property?
Just short of 6.
This is your complaint, that Mr. Zanger keeps peacocks, and he also has dogs.
Yes.
You claim that his peacocks got out of his property and came onto your property and ate your screens. That his dogs attacked your dogs. You have vet bills that you want him to pay for. And that when you complained, he sent out a letter to neighbors that really vilified you and caused you a substantial amount of hardship, and you want to be compensated for that as well. Mr. Zanger says the screens, really no big deal, that his dogs are territorial, and as far as the letter is concerned, he never meant the letter to cause you any embarrassment or stress. He was really trying to be neighborly. That's your defense.
Exactly.
How long have you been neighbors?
It'll be 3 years in July.
Do you have pictures of your peacocks, Mr. Zanger?
I do.
May I see them, please?
They're so pretty.
How long have you had these birds?
About 4 years, I would say.
Do you keep them contained in any way?
Not at all.
Okay. So you understand if you don't keep them contained in any way, you are responsible for any damage that they cause?
Yes.
Good. So tell me about the damage that the peacocks caused, Miss Sear.
We have a 3-story house. They've gotten up there and ate all 5 of the screens on our 3rd story.
Can I see the pictures, please? They certainly are beautiful
Here,
birds.
they're 8 all the way
Thank
up
you.
to here.
Beautiful. Where did you get them?
In New York.
How many do you have?
Right now,
There's
only
those.
2. The others were eaten by the mountain
Made all the way
lions.
up.
And may I just add, at this point, I have them as security against rattlesnakes.
Well, that's nice, but they eat her screens.
That was none of my desire.
I understand that,
Or
but
my
may not be your
doing.
desire, but they're annoying. This is the damage they caused.
May I address you in that point? This happened actually 3 years ago. I came back from New York, where I spent my summers on my island. And then I was told by one of the neighbors that Zach said his father had shot at the peacocks on the roof or above. I went up to the Sear residence. I introduced myself. They were new neighbors. And I met Mr. Sear, and I asked him if he did actually take aim at the peacocks. And he said, yes, he shot above them because they were on a roof. I said, okay, why don't you use a water hose? Water does really deter almost all animals.
Yeah.
And eventually Mrs. Sear came out, and she said, you know, they ate our screens, and I did not see them.
Okay, well, somebody wasn't watching the store. How much is it going to cost you to replace the screens?
The screens, I found a lower estimate for $85.79.
$85.79, cheap enough, taking care of the screens. Let's get to the problem with the dogs.
My son and his 9-year-old friend, my son was 11. They were walking.
Were you there?
I was at the house, no.
You the son?
Yeah.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Zachary's here.
All right, Zachary. When were you walking your dogs that you had a problem with Mr. Zanger's dogs?
About April 26th.
How many dogs were you walking?
I was only walking 2.
What kinds of dogs were you walking?
German Shepherd and Lab.
Mixed.
Were you walking them on leashes?
No. I was leading them with my hand.
And where were you walking them?
I was walking them down the road. We have like a halfway where it splits, and I go from there back and just check out the neighborhoods.
Okay. Tell me what happened, Zachary.
Okay, I was walking down, and I see 3 dogs coming down. A St. Bernard and 2 looks like Black Labs and Rottweiler mixed. And the St. Bernard was okay. It just stayed away, but then...
Yeah, they're big and goofy and fun.
Yeah.
The St. Bernard's very sweet.
We have one in our family.
They are very sweet.
I know.
And then those 2 Rottweiler and Lab mixes, they were all sniffing, and then one started to bite the older dog.
Whose older dog?
Our older dog. They just started to fight and everything, and I was getting freaked out, so I tried to help. And then they went to go attack the younger dog, which is our dog, but that dog just ran away. Then they started attacking my dog's legs, and they started pouncing on her chest and everything, and she had a big, like, hump or something on her side of her ribs. And then my mom came back up, and that's when we got contact with Mr. Zanger.
What did Mr. Zanger say to you, Miss Sear?
Well, I heard the boys screaming, so I got in my truck and I drove down. I met with the boys, so I put the boys and the dog in my truck, and as I came, he came down in his silver car, and I pulled up next to him, and I said, "Do you see what happened?" And he says, "Yes." He goes, "My dogs are territorial." He says, "Anything that walks over here, they think that they own the road." I said, "If your dogs are dangerous, you need to take care of your animals." My dog never left my son's side as they were pouncing him and everything else. She's not aggressive.
Okay, Mr. Zanger.
Thank you. I would like to say the dogs have absolutely no Rottweiler in them. Both of them are black, as you see. Both of them are female and spayed.
Good. That's very nice. They got off your property. Did you say to Miss Sear when she called you that my dogs are territorial?
I did say so, yes. You see, when we moved there, we saw the area is so rural, and I felt we have our dogs there also to keep the rattlesnakes away. I had to kill rattlesnakes right in front of my house, and I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and I want her to be safe.
Mr. Zanger, my dear, you choose to live there.
Yes.
If you choose to live there, you have to have whatever protection you need for your 6-year-old granddaughter.
That's...
If you choose to have your 6-year-old granddaughter live in an area where she's playing in the front yard, but for your dogs and your peacocks, there are going to be rattlesnakes. That's your choice. You don't have the right to have dogs who've decided that their territory goes beyond the boundary of your deed. And when you do, you are responsible for the damage that they cause. So now I will see the letter.
And then he issued out a letter to all of my neighbors in May stating that when I brought him my vet bill, I knocked on the door, Mr. Zanger walked out, shut the door behind him, and I said, "The other day when your dogs attacked my dog, here's my vet bill." He took it, he looked at it, and he goes, "So what? Good." He goes, "Get off my property." I said, "You're responsible for what happens." He goes, "Get off my property right now." And I said, "It's very sad because I'm going to call animal control and it'll probably end up with your animals being destroyed." I did say that. I never said I was going to shoot them. His 6-year-old granddaughter was never there. He sent that out to my neighbors.
Can I read the letter, please?
Certainly.
Are you employed, sir?
No, I'm retired.
You got a lot of time on your hands. And anybody receiving this letter, Miss Sear, would understand that this is the musing of somebody who has a lot of time on their hands. It's not the kind of letter that you sue over. He's not only complaining about you, he's complaining about other people. He talks about other incidents that happened in 1998 with his dogs. He talks about stolen car parts, which he doesn't attribute to you. It is the musings and meanderings of somebody who had nothing else to do. You don't get compensated for this. You do, however, get compensated for the injuries to your dogs and for the screens that his peacocks damaged. Those two amounts together come to $477.63. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was fair. The only reason I brought the letter in was to prove that, you know, he was distributing lies to all my neighbors, but I think it was very fair.
I do applaud Judge Judy for whatever she does and how she does it, and I abide by her decision.
He's got too much time on his hands.
Let bygones be bygones, and let's work together to a better neighborhood.
All parties in the matter of Feldman versus Martinez, step forward.
23-year-old college student Stephanie Feldman is suing her ex-best friend, 24-year-old Emily Martinez, for vandalizing the inside of her home with pink paint and rotting meat.
Ms. Feldman, the defendant moved into a home that you share with your father, according to your complaint, and you had an argument. After a period of time, she moved out, and it is your claim that she vandalized the house. You want her to pay for the damage that she did in the house. Ms. Martinez said she did not vandalize the house, and she is counterclaiming. She said she wants damages because during the course of this argument, you assaulted her, right?
Yes.
When did you move in and why, Ms. Martinez?
I was persuaded by Stephanie to...
No, listen. When did you move in?
In September of '04.
Who did you move in with?
With my son's father, my fiancé at the time.
And what about your son?
He was with me as well.
What, did you have a room or an apartment?
It was a room.
Okay. When did you start to pay rent?
Immediately.
How much did you pay?
I paid $400 a month.
So far, is that right?
No.
No. When did she move in?
She moved in around September, like she said, but actually the first month that she moved in with Hugo, I didn't charge her. Because I'm the godmother of her son, I said, I'll do you the favor and you don't have to pay for the first month. And she gets public assistance, and I have a letter here that I was getting $141.50 twice a month for Emily staying there.
Were you getting welfare in September of 2004?
No. When I moved in with her, I moved in with my fiancé. We separated, and that's when I was out of work and I applied for public assistance.
Were they paying the rent?
Not initially. Initially,
when did they start paying the rent?
Around November.
All right, good. So they paid the rent, $283.
I paid the difference.
Show me proof.
I don't have proof because we were best friends.
Did she pay any additional rent? She says you didn't give her additional money and that all she got for the room was $283 that she got from public assistance.
Yes.
Okay, keep going. What was the argument about and when did it occur?
Okay, it all started when she was no longer with Hugo. Hugo decided that he was going to move out. Her and Hugo broke up. She started dating this other guy named Fred, okay? My nephew let Hugo in the house while she was in the room with Fred. A whole thing started where Fred tried to stab Hugo, and Hugo had to jump out of the window. So I told her after that argument that, you know, this has to stop. The police came. I said, you know, I don't want this drama in my house.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Let me tell you why. I'm really comfortable.
How so?
If you're quiet, I'm going to explain it to you. And I want you to understand there's only one attitude in this room.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Feldman says her ex-best friend, Emily Martinez, vandalized the inside of her home. Emily is countersuing for an assault and the return of her security deposit.
Okay, when did she finally move out?
April 7th, that was the 30-day. The first argument was on March 7th when I was speaking to my nephew about not shoveling. That's his responsibility to do. And she got into the argument. I said, Emily, please mind your business, and she wouldn't. So that's when I had asked her to leave. I said, if you're going to get into my family business...
That's when she claims you slapped her. Did you slap her?
No.
What'd
she
you
went
do?
to go hit me on the entrance door by her room, and I moved her hand out of the way out of self-defense. I'm going to see somebody hitting me and stand there.
Okay. Were you injured?
Yes.
Well, tell me about the injury.
Okay. She was in a violent rage. She is very violent. She has violent outbreaks towards her father.
You couldn't have moved in with her if she was violent.
Well, I didn't realize that. You don't know these things till you move in with people. You never know someone till you live with them.
Show me pictures of your injuries.
I don't have any pictures.
Do you have a police report about your injuries?
No, I don't.
All right. Could you get to the vandalism of the property, please? She moved out April 7th.
Yes. I was at work because I'm a supervisor in the after school. My father and my nephew were home.
Father?
Yes.
Could you step up, please? What is your last name, sir?
Feldman.
Mr. Feldman, were you home on or about the 7th of April when Miss Martinez came in to get the remainder of her things?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
She took her stuff and she left.
And then what happened?
My grandson and I left, and when we came back, the back room was destroyed.
You have photographs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I see it, please?
And there's also photographs on the back as well. And that also has photographs of the meat that was planted in my apartment.
What is this pink stuff that was spilled all over the place?
That was the pink paint that she used. As you could see, it's the same color of the room. That pink paint was in Emily's possession, was never in my possession.
You also said that somebody put stuffed food around the house.
Yes. That day, when I walked in, I noticed a foul odor in my bedroom. And I couldn't figure out what it was, but I had people over, so I wasn't going to start searching all over. And the next day, I found chopped meat in my heater system, fish under my bed. That's what you see in the pictures. Chopped meat and pig's legs all over the house, behind my fridge, behind my bed wall. And
anybody else have access to the house?
Only the people that live with me, which is my dad, my nephew, and Millie, who is my godmother.
Go ahead.
Okay. She has an open house. She has a party house.
First, let's go with the pink paint.
Okay. I mean, that was planted after I left. This is all a retaliation because I called the police on her because she attacked me. And she told me I had to have my stuff out by a certain day. I removed it.
Wait a second. Wait. She didn't attack you. You said she slapped you.
She was attacking me.
You said she slapped you, is what you said.
That's all she got in because I was...
Listen to me. You still vandalized the house.
That's
allegedly. What's
allegedly.
the new boyfriend's name?
Fred.
Fred. You or Fred.
Allegedly.
No, I have to make a decision whether that happened.
How is the evidence? Where's the evidence that I did that? She has an open house. Her door's never locked. There's guys coming in and out of her apartment all hours of the night.
Miss Martinez, let me tell you why. I'm really comfortable, really comfortable finding that you vandalized the house.
How so?
If you're quiet, I'm going to explain it to you. And I want you to understand there's only one attitude in this room.
I'm not trying to have an attitude.
Good.
I just don't like being accused.
So I'm going to explain it to you. Because how long have you lived in this house?
That's been in my family for 50 years. I've lived there all my life.
Shh. Listen to me. Listen to me. How many times have you found chopped meat in the heater system?
Not at all.
Never?
No.
Mr. Feldman, how many times have you found chopped meat in the heating system in the last 50 years?
Never.
How many times have you found paint spilled on the floor?
Never.
In 50 years?
Never.
So the only time...
Listen
to me. I'm speaking now. You asked me for a reason. I'm giving you the reason. I'm being nice to you. The world revolves around common sense.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't make sense, it's not true. If it makes sense, then more often than not, it's true. Now, she's had, according to you, an open house. Lots of people come in and out of the house. Mr. Feldman has lived there for 50 years. I'm sure he's had lots of people in and out of the house. It is too coincidental, and it belies credulity, which means it just doesn't make sense, that in the last 50 years, the only time that they've had trouble with vandalism in their house to this extent, in a room where you and Fred and Hugo had been living, and the only time she had meat found in the heating system is the day you moved out.
This is a case of single white female. She wants to be me. The problem was that I had a boyfriend and she wanted me to be hanging out with her every day. I had to be by her side every day.
Listen to me.
She has a serious psychological problem, and this is a retaliation against me.
Then you should have a different place to live.
I do.
In any event, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500, which is the cost of your cleanup, which is what you say. You should not have to clean up. I'm speaking. You won, so be quiet. You have a counterclaim for assault. I find that you weren't assaulted, so it's dismissed. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Homemaker Carrie Colmanero is suing her ex-husband, construction worker Michael Maddox, for having her falsely arrested for child abuse. Michael says Carrie spanked their 4-year-old son with a cutting board.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 91 on the calendar in the matter of Colmanero versus Maddox. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mrs. Colmanero, you and the defendant used to be married.
Yes.
and you have children together. And it is your claim that your former husband made false claims that you had and continue to abuse the children that you have together. And as a result of one of those claims, you were arrested. You want to be compensated to the tune of $5,000. And Mr. Maddox says that you have a history of child abuse, excessive corporal punishment of the children. He believes that you are still using corporal punishment on the children. And he has every right, and not only the right, but the responsibility as their parent to notify protective services and or the police that his children are at risk. Right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. How long were you married?
5 years.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
Hayden is 7 and Trevor is 5.
You have other children?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
I have a 13-year-old.
Whose name is?
Is Cody, and a 9-year-old who is Jared.
Those children also live with you?
I do have my son, my 9-year-old lives with me.
Where is Cody?
Cody moved in with his father about 2-3 months ago.
Were any of those 2 children the subjects of child protective proceedings or complaints?
The accusations have been made for all 4 children.
By whom?
By Michael Maddox.
By anyone else?
By my husband. His ex-wife has also made claims.
Well, does your husband have children?
Yes, he does.
How many children does he have?
He has 3 children.
Were there allegations of corporal punishment made by his former wife with regard to his 3 children?
Yes, there has been.
And what were the nature of the complaints that were made by his former wife?
Molestation, different things of that nature.
I'm talking about excessive corporal punishment or corporal punishment. You know what that means?
Okay.
Corporal punishment?
No,
that means hitting excessively or using an instrument to hit.
For Cody, Jared, Hayden, and Trevor, there has been accusations made on all of the children.
To excessive corporal punishment?
Yes.
By Mr. Maddox?
Yes.
And by your husband's former wife?
Yes.
Okay, now we're getting there. When was the allegation made with regard to Trevor and Hayden that caused you to become arrested? Tell me about that incident.
That happened on February 12th.
Okay.
And the children had went to go visit their father that weekend, and later on that night, I had been arrested for abusing my son, my 4-year-old. At the time, he was 4.
Okay, Mr. Maddox, the children were with you for a scheduled weekend visitation?
Yes, they was.
And tell me what happened.
What happened was she used to drop the children off at my sister's house. So when she dropped them off, I came over and I proceeded to pick my children up. I took my sons to my house and I started to change their clothes. I noticed the bruises. Right then I called.
Noticed the bruises where?
On the buttocks. There was 3 places on the buttocks that they had bruises. This has happened.
What did the bruises look like?
They were small bruises, about a 1/4 inch wide, probably maybe 1 inch or so long, around their butt. So
on both children?
Just one.
Which child?
The youngest one, Trevor.
Did you ask Trevor and or Hayden how that happened?
Yes, I did. They told me their mom spanked them with a paddle.
So who did you call?
I called the police department.
You indicate, Mr. Maddox, that your judgment of divorce, you indicate in your answer, that your judgment of divorce has an unusual paragraph in it with regard to corporal punishment. Do you have that with you?
I sure do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This wasn't the first time that this has happened.
No, let me see it, and then I'll ask you questions. Okay? Well, there is a paragraph in your judgment of divorce that provides that neither party shall allow the use of corporal punishment upon the children. Was that a negotiated term of the separation agreement?
Well, what happened is I had to remodify it because it started happening before this case, and so I had it put in.
Had there been a history of that before, Mr. Maddox?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
What kind of a history, sir?
One time, right when she started dating Rick, she was living in a different county, and I picked him up, and he had bruises up and down his rear end.
Who?
Trevor had bruises that she was living with him at the time. And so I took him to the county that I was in, the police department. They took pictures. Well, they proceeded to try to find her, but she had came back into Stanislaus County, a different county, and they couldn't go over into that county. So I proceeded to have that, the CPS from the Merced County was checking it out, and so when she moved back into Stanislaus, the case kind of got dropped.
After you called the police, what happened on the 12th of February of 2003?
The officer took the report. He called another officer out, a female officer that takes the pictures, and she proceeded to take pictures. Then he told me that...
Don't tell me what he told you.
Oh.
Just tell me, did either of the officers that respond speak to either Trevor or Hayden?
They did. They spoke to both the children.
And subsequent to that, they came to your home and arrested you?
That's correct.
Is that right?
That is correct.
When they arrested you, did they take anything from the house?
Yes, they did.
What did they take?
They asked me if I had a paddle, and I said I had a cutting board, which was confiscated. That is what I brought here today. It's my cutting board. You can see that I do use it as a cutting board.
Okay.
It hung in my kitchen. It's in my kitchen today. I did get it back because all allegations were dropped.
When?
That was dropped on March 27th. I have that court.
I'd like to see the court papers, please.
And the DA's information is on the back, which was also
I'd like to read
dropped.
it.
It's on the back there.
Is this the only write-up? Does anybody have a police report, please?
I have a police report.
I'd like to see the police report. All this says is that the case was dismissed on the DA's motion for insufficient evidence.
Your Honor, I asked...
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This has been dropped. This was stated after the fact.
What after the fact? What are you talking about? You have to be told not to hit children with instruments?
And later today...
He didn't pay.
No.
And he did go to the wedding?
Yes. He walked her down the aisle, did everything the father does, except for pay.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carrie Colmenero says her ex-husband, Michael Maddox, had her falsely arrested for child abuse. Michael says Carrie spanked their 4-year-old son so hard, it left marks.
Is it true that you hit your children with a wooden paddle?
No, it is not true.
Then you're telling me that the police officer who filed this report is a liar. Is that what you're telling me? Did you know the police officer who responded to the scene on the 12th to arrest you? Had you ever seen him before?
I never previously seen him.
So there would be no reason for him to hold or harbor a grudge against you in any way. Is that right?
No.
Is that right? Is that right?
That is correct.
And there would be no reason for you to believe that he would hold or harbor a grudge against your husband in any way?
No.
Is that correct? So you believe that when he filed a police report, he filed a police report that accurately reflected both what he observed and what was said by both you and your husband. That would be a fair statement, would it not?
Yes.
Good. So I'm going to read to you from the police report.
Okay.
Okay? Let's start out with something simple. He responded on the 12th of February, 2003, to the defendant's home. I will paraphrase that part of his report because it is not really germane to what I'm going to tell you. When he got to the defendant's home as a result of the defendant's telephone call, he examined your sons, and he found bruises and marks on Trevor. He then asked both boys, little boys, how that happened, and both boys said to the police officer that Mommy spanked me, and that's all they would say. They said nothing else. There were no marks viewed on Hayden, only on Trevor. But based upon those marks and the statement, they came to your residence. Now, fast forward. Police officer, I asked Carrie, that's your name, isn't it?
Yes.
If she had spanked either of her boys earlier that day. She advised that she had, with a wooden paddle, which was still located in the kitchen. At that point, I placed Carrie into custody for violating Penal Code Section 273, cruelty to a child. I then escorted Carrie out of the residence and secured her in the rear of the vehicle. As I was furthering my investigation, Deputy Jeff and stayed with Carrie as I went back into the residence to interview Colmenero. That's you. I asked if he knew the whereabouts of the wooden paddle. He advised that it was in the kitchen. I followed Colmenero into the kitchen and watched as he retrieved an approximately 12-inch by 13-inch brown wooden paddle from the counter. I asked Colmenero what the paddle was used for. He advised that Carrie uses it to discipline both boys when they get out of line. At approximately 3:30, both boys, he said, were getting out of control and tearing up the house. So he's very specific. He watched as Carrie yelled at both boys and grabbed the wooden paddle and then proceeded to spank the victim approximately 2 times and Hayden 2 times for disobeying her. At that point, he didn't see any other physical injuries on either of the children. He also advised, that's him, that the last time Carrie had spanked the boys was 2 days before, on the 10th, at 7 p.m. for the same circumstances. Then the police officer interviewed your 2 older sons, who confirmed all of that. Both boys, your 2 older sons, say that that's your modus operandi. When they get out of line, you take a wooden paddle and you hit them. So my question to you is, first, stand up here. What are you complaining about? What's your lawsuit about?
My lawsuit is due to being arrested, and this has been dropped.
So, it can be dropped. You did it.
There was nothing stated in our court custody that this was stated after the fact.
What after the fact? What are you talking about? What's after the fact? That you should not hit children with instruments? Is that what you're telling me?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carrie Colmenero says her ex-husband, Michael Maddox, had her falsely arrested for child abuse. Michael says Carrie spanked their 4-year-old son so hard, it left marks.
You have to be told not to hit children with instruments?
I am saying that this incident is not... I have the DA's information here, and they have overlooked the children. If you would take a look at this also.
Listen to me, madam. Your husband said that you hit the children with a paddle, correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And you say that that's her standard operating procedure for dealing with the children, correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And that the children had marks as a result of that, at least one of the children, correct?
Correct.
You weren't falsely arrested. The case was ironically, erroneously, stupidly dismissed. For what reason, I don't know. Maybe he had a DA who's got his head up his behind. We do not hit children with instruments. You got it? Goodbye. The case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I think the judge knew what she was talking about. I was just hoping that the district attorney in my area would go ahead and pick it up.
I am not a cruel mother, nor have I ever been, and Michael Maddox is very aware of that.
I just think that they can see right through it with all my documentation that, you know, she was just after money from me.
I only pray that he stops doing this, lets my husband and I go on and live our lives and parent our children.
They just, you know, quit doing that to my kids. We won't have a problem.
Obviously, if we were mean, they'd be dead by now, or at least, you know, out of our hands. And that's not the truth.
I would like to get custody of the kids, you know, so they live with me and in a stable home.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lewis versus Robbins. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Debbie Lewis is suing her ex-husband, assembly line worker James Robbins, for half the cost of their daughter's wedding. Debbie says he reneged on his promise to pay.
Ms. Lewis, the defendant is your former husband, and according to the complaint that I read, he agreed to pay for half of your daughter's wedding. Which one of these 2 lovelies is getting married? What's your name?
Angie.
How old are you, Angie?
23.
When are you getting married?
I already got married. I got married in September.
And he agreed to pay for half the wedding, and it was a very reasonably priced wedding. Half the cost of the wedding was $865. And he didn't pay.
No.
And you want him to pay.
Yes.
And he did go to the wedding.
Yes. He walked her down the aisle, did everything the father does.
Okay.
Except for pay.
Okay. Now, Mr. Robbins does not deny the fact that he agreed to pay for half the wedding. Correct, sir?
Correct.
And he does not deny the fact that he went to the wedding. Correct?
Correct.
And who else went with you to the wedding?
My wife, Robin.
So, Mr. Robbins, the ball is in your court, sir. Why didn't you pay for half your daughter's wedding as you promised?
Well, because ever since I've left her in '90, she's been putting her hands in my pockets trying to get money out of me for everything. And the divorce decree that we have does say that she gets to use the kids for taxes reasons. But the state of Utah took custody from her because of verbal and physical abuse. And I got a paper here that says that the divorce decree follows the child. And it cost me $1,600 because she did claim my daughter on taxes where I have the right to. And I also have a letter from her that's showing that the custodial parent gets to claim them on taxes. And if that's the case, I didn't get to claim them for 13 years that we've been divorced.
If you believe that in a certain year, I assume last year, that you had the right to claim a child as a deduction, she claims the child. You claim the child, and the IRS is going to come and look at both of your tax returns and say they will make a decision as to who is going to claim the child as a deduction. The other one will have a penalty. But you don't do a set-off. You promise to pay for half the wedding. Why didn't you pay her between September and April?
Well, I told her that I would pay her when I could, which would...
No, that's not right. What do you mean when you could? How many children do you have?
Well, I have 4 with my wife now.
We have 3 children.
Just a second. You have 4 children now. And how many children do you have that got married last year?
Just 1.
And you said you would pay for half the wedding.
Yes, I did.
Pay for it. It's the right thing to do. And stop making excuses and stop telling me what happened in 1990, that she's had her hand in your pocket. You
Well, it
3...
just all added up. I mean, everything's added up to the...
Mr. Robbins, you have altogether 7 children?
Well, I've got 4 stepchildren, 3.
Then I'm not talking about your stepchildren. They are not your responsibility.
Well, I married them, so I feel they are.
Well, I'm telling you, by law, they are not your responsibility unless your family is on welfare, are they?
No.
Well, if your family's not on welfare, then those children are not your financial responsibility. They are the financial responsibility of their mother and their father, not you. You have primary responsibility for only 3 biological children. 3. And your first biological child was getting married. She was having a very small wedding. $865 represents your half. And if you didn't have the money to pay the $865, you should have gotten another job. If I make myself clear, sir?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $865. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused.
19-year-old student Maureen Metz is suing her ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old bartender Greg Leith, for unpaid loans. Maureen says she started dating Greg when he was her high school swim coach, and she was just 17.
Guys, case number 123 on the calendar in the matter of Mance versus Leith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
How old are you, Miss Mance?
I'm 19.
How old were you when you met the defendant?
I was 17.
You were in high school?
Yes, I was a senior in high school.
And what was he?
He was the assistant swim coach on my high school swim team.
When did you start to date him romantically?
We started dating maybe 3 days after the season ended. That was in February of 2002.
You were 17?
Yes.
How old were you?
24 at the time.
Married or single?
Single.
Had been married?
No.
Any children?
No.
According to your complaint, he had some trouble making ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of your relationship, you loaned him money.
Yes.
Substantial amount of money.
Yes.
Mr. Leith says that, well, he did have some hard times there financially. The money that you gave him was just that gifts. You agreed to help him out. And because he's a good guy, he gave you back $2,400. And he says, according to him, let me quote his answer, he said, I didn't want to seem as if I was a charity case, so I paid her a total of $2,400 to make her feel better, and I can prove it. That's what you said here.
Yes.
A lie.
Prove. Shh. I'm going to cut to the chase right now.
Okay.
Miss Mance, you have a whole laundry list of money that you lent him over the years. Is that right?
Yes.
You say he gave you back $1,000, but he still owes you about $3,000.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you this. If he can prove to me what he says in his answer, that he paid you back $2,400, if he can prove to me, listen to my question, If he can prove to me that he paid you back $2,400, are you prepared to say, that's fine, that's...
No.
Oh, that's too bad. Prove to me that you paid her back $2,400.
I don't have any evidence of any kind.
Well, if you don't have any evidence, you see where I'm going?
See where you're going.
See where I'm going?
The only evidence that we have is a title of a car that was signed over from my name to her name, which is a car that I purchased for her.
For $200.
Shh.
I purchased the car for $400 from a friend. We signed $200 on the title because it made tax reasons easier. When I put $600 worth of work into it, which her father actually helped me do the work in a friend of his shop, and we had $600 in total parts, including seat covers, wheel covers, and things that I needed to get the engine running properly again, which the car was destroyed a week or so after she started driving it because something that wasn't fixed properly ended up blowing up inside and destroyed the motor. I also gave her $1,400 in cash in total payments, and that was...
Show me from the bank from which you drew out...
I paid everything in cash.
Listen to my mouth. Are you a bookie?
No.
You have a job?
Yes.
You have a checking account?
No.
You put money in a bank or under the mattress?
Under the mattress.
You put it under the mattress. You're slick, but I don't believe you. Do you understand?
Yes.
Nobody does that. You put money in a bank, especially $1,400. You would have some evidence that you withdrew $1,400 from a bank. Not necessarily a check. Not everybody has a checking account. But most people who are college educated have a checking account.
Your Honor, at one point he did have a checking account.
Just a second. Do I look like I need help from you yet?
No.
Who is this?
This is one of my friends. His name is Chip. He's a witness that 2 of the times I did pay her cash, they were $200 each time, so he's a witness to $400 of the money that was paid back.
Good. Perfect. I don't even have to hear him. She says that you paid her back $1,000. You could have had 2 more chips. $2,400, sir. Get there. So far, let us assume that I believe you, which I do not, that we have $400 from Chipper over here. And you have $600 in parts for a car.
Which my father paid for.
Just a second. $2,400, sir. Get there.
I already told you, ma'am. $1,000 in total for the car, and then $1,400 in cash payments made to her.
When?
During the course, it was probably over a course of a year, because she loaned me money when I first got diagnosed with a disease, Crohn's disease. I was out of work for a while, and then when I got back to work, I took a dive off of a ladder and had a fractured spine at one point.
You're an accident looking to happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you have family?
No. Well, family, yes. It's my father and my mother and everybody, but...
Well, father and mother usually comprise family. Right, Chip?
I agree, ma'am.
That's where you go if you have the propensity to fall off ladders. You go to your parents. You don't go to your 17-year-old girlfriend.
Well, she was 18 at that time.
Oh, my goodness. Eligible for Social Security, and you were 25. Father?
Yes, ma'am.
Happy with him?
Not really.
Oh, I could tell.
My ex-wife is even less happy, and I had to keep him out of jail. She wanted to put him there.
He was forbidden from entering my mother's house where I was living at the time.
When you were how old?
17.
17, 18.
Is there any particular reason why he was forbidden from entering your house?
I wasn't forbidden from her father's house.
No. I understand that.
My mother was very upset because he was so much older than me, and she found out that I had been giving him money, which upset her even more. And
Where'd you get the money from?
I worked. I have a copy of my W-2 here. I worked full-time during the summertime, and I took a semester off school, and I worked.
She made very good money that year. Unfortunately, she doesn't have it.
Yes.
And I get very few phone calls, if I may interrupt, from my ex-wife. One of them was about this situation after she had heard about it, because it was in the closet for some time. And the words that came out of her mouth were statutory. And that's what she wanted to pursue. And I talked her out of that.
That's hard to do anyway.
Yes.
Because at the time, what's your first name?
Maureen.
Maureen. At the time, Maureen was in love.
Yes.
I
didn't want to push them apart, her mother and herself. I figured that would end up in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Wouldn't have gone anywhere anyway.
No.
You need somebody to testify, right?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
The day that we went to Sausalito, Eric was rubbing my shoulders in front of the guy that we were buying product from.
I don't care, and neither does he.
As long as they're not my shoulders.
Well, I don't care about rubbing shoulders. Go someplace else if you want to talk about rubbing shoulders.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maureen Mance says ex-boyfriend Greg Leaf owes for unpaid loans. Maureen says she started dating Greg when he was her high school swim coach, and she was just 17.
Okay, so far you have not convinced me that you gave her $2,400.
The title.
I see you there
over.
without any evidence.
The only evidence I would have had would have been the title of the car.
Except
which
Chipper
I
over
signed
here. And Chipper doesn't want to fall in my mouth again, do you, Chipper?
No, ma'am.
I will also say, Your Honor, that she did not loan me nearly the amount, and none of it was supposed to be a loan. She had told me during the course of this relationship that she was helping me out because we were together and because we were in a relationship.
I know.
And it was only
Just
after we broke up.
Listen to me, sir.
Yes.
A 17-year-old cannot make a contract with you.
None of the money was ever borrowed or any money that she ever spent was until after she had turned 18, so she would have been a legal adult at that time.
Which was only a few months later.
You got it? Do you just love that man? Listen to me. Maureen, really good lesson.
Hard.
Hard
Very
lesson.
hard.
Over the course of 2 years, you gave him a whole lot of money. Now, ordinarily, I would dismiss your lawsuit because you have no evidence of a loan. You loved him. But he says he paid you back. That's his problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't prove it because he has no evidence. So what he wants me to do is believe a 25-year-old, because at that time he was 25, because you've turned 18, eventually he turned 25,
Right.
that a 25-year-old man took money from an 18-year-old girl, and he wants me to believe that this 25-year-old man had no bank account, no checking account, kept his money under his mattress.
When he had it.
When he had it. So I find that hard to believe, Mr. Leaf. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is your Crohn's disease under control?
Yes, it is.
Oh, how wonderful for you. And you working full-time?
Yes, ma'am.
And you haven't fallen off any ladders lately?
No, ma'am.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,400, which is the amount you say you paid her back but can't prove. Maureen, be grateful.
I am. Thank you very much.
That's all.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Eyes are excused. You may step out.
In the beginning of our relationship, he wrote me letters telling him how much he loved me and how much he couldn't wait to spend his life with me.
We had both written letters to each other, and I wouldn't consider them to be romantic love letters.
I was young, I was naive, and it was a hard lesson.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mackey versus Dewey. Step forward.
Spa owner Lee Mackey is suing his former employee, 26-year-old esthetician Melanie Dewey, for the return of money he claims she stole. Melanie says she kept the money because Lee was withholding her pay.
Mr. Mackey, do you own a day spa? Is that what kind of establishment
Yes,
that
ma'am. I'm
you
actually
have?
a partner.
And according to what I read, the defendant did some work at your day spa as an esthetician. She gave facials. What else?
We didn't really get to that point yet, but I was going to be the head esthetician and I was getting ready to open the salon with them.
So you weren't working for them?
I was working for them, but not doing facials yet.
What were you doing?
I was helping them open the day spa, doing like the hiring and the training and ordering the supplies, bringing the supplies.
Okay. According to what I read, Miss Dewey came to you with some sort of a proposition, and that was that she had a friend from whom she could purchase a tanning bed at a very good price, $500. Is that right?
Not technically, ma'am. It's a spray tan machine, and the price was $550. So it was not technically
Spray tanning machine?
Yes, ma'am.
You gave her the $550?
Gave her $500 in cash, and then I helped put $150 down for her insurance.
I don't want to know about the insurance. You gave her $500 in cash for the machine?
$650 total, ma'am.
Mr. Mackey, I want you to listen to me, sir. I said you gave her $500 in cash for the machine.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you said, well, I didn't want the machine. You were going to sell it to somebody else. And when you told that to the defendant, she said, well, I'm going to keep the $500.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also claimed that you loaned her $150 for her car insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Miss Dewey says that, in fact, you did give her the $500, you did pay the $150, but you owed her money for some wages, and she's keeping everything. Right?
Correct.
Uh-huh. When were you supposed to open the spa, Mr. Mackey?
Originally it was in June, but we were delayed for construction. We finally opened December 15th.
Of 2003?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did Miss Dewey come to work for you?
I'd have to actually talk to our general manager, Eric. He's actually the one that dealt with hiring her.
When did Miss Dewey come to work for you?
She started helping the spa open, I would say, in early...
You're thinking really hard. The questions get harder here,
September.
sir. What?
September.
September what?
I don't know the exact date.
When in September?
It was the last week of July, actually.
Is that a possibility, sir?
I have her paycheck here that says 11/13/03 for 16 hours that she put in, and $295 of products that she purchased that she was reimbursed for.
11/16/03 is the first paycheck she had?
Yes,
You said she came to work for you in September.
that is correct.
So what happened to September and October?
This is when she was reimbursed for her hours.
Let me see. Okay. So you say you came to work in July.
End of July, last week.
And what did you do for them in July?
They had me look online for products that they would like, talk to them on the phone, ordering supplies, going with them to Sausalito to order supplies.
Well, I want you to take out a list of the hours that you worked.
He was responsible for all those hours. I don't have any of the hours.
You mean you were being paid on an hourly basis and you didn't keep track of how many hours you worked?
He actually was supposed to give me a base salary, which I never had, and a compensation package that he never gave me. He never came through with anything that he said that he would.
Then why did you continue there?
That's why I quit, and that's why I kept the money. It was ridiculous.
Well, you can't do that.
I felt that I could. Maybe
Well, you can't.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lee Mackey says former employee Melanie Dewey owes for the return of money. Melanie claims it's Lee who owes her.
Okay. What's your first name?
Melanie.
Melanie! Listen to me, dear. If you go to work for somebody in July and you get your first paycheck in November, you're supposed to say,
Too trusting.
Something isn't right here. I worked in July, I worked in August, I worked in September, I worked in October. November 16th, I get a check for $583. Something isn't quite making sense here. Now, when did he give you the $500 for this tanning machine?
It was in September.
August 28th, ma'am. Also, just to talk a little bit about what Melanie is saying about working, we actually weren't even open. We were during construction.
I understand that.
So-
What Melanie is saying is she was helping you set up. And she had to have been there prior to when you say she was there in November, because she made this arrangement to get you a piece of equipment in August.
That's because we were friends.
Mr. Mackey, don't play with me. You may have promised her that she would have a role in the new day spa and that she would be the chief esthetician, but you needed some help in setting up the place, and she was on the phone, and she may have gone to look for some products for you. It's her responsibility to keep track of her own hours, to check against yours. She can't do that. She can't come here with a pretty smile and a great tan and then say to me, this is my evidence. I mean, that doesn't float. So August 28th, Miss Dewey, you got the $500. And when did you decide to keep it for yourself? What date?
Probably around the end of September, when I was still working for them and training all of their estheticians. And then I asked him for my compensation package, and he said that it was a great package, nowhere to be found, but they were going to turn around and sell the machine that I was giving them and make about $1,000 off of it. And at that point, I realized I'm not going to get paid. They're making money, and I'm getting totally screwed.
Shh. That was in September?
Correct.
So in September, you kept the money?
Correct.
Did you continue to go to work there?
No.
Well, then can you explain this check that was given to you on November 13th for $583 that you cashed?
I guess it was a later time. I don't remember the time frames.
Can I ask you this question, Miss Dewey?
Yes.
What did you do to prepare for your day in court? I mean, other than put on perfect makeup, what did you do?
I've been
Madam?
out of the country. I wasn't prepared.
You certainly are not prepared. What you're supposed to do when you come to court is the judge is going to ask you questions. Then you had to sit down and say, this is when I went to work for them. These are the hours that I put in. This is when I stopped working. This is when I decided to appropriate the $500 for myself because I wasn't getting paid. But if now you tell me that you appropriated the $500 in September, and then 2 months later they pay you $583, something doesn't quite fit. Do you understand?
Yeah.
All right, so I can't help you, madam. Now, what about this $150 loan for insurance?
Well, actually, ma'am, the $50 was supposed to go towards the machine. The other was a loan because the insurance agent was around the corner from my house, and I do have the canceled check.
Can I see it,
where I
please?
wrote Melanie on the info line because it was not for me. And that was dated 11 November.
Okay. Now, Melanie, State Farm is where you insure your car. Is that correct?
That's where he insured my car, yes.
What do you mean he insured your car?
He was trying to pursue me. He was trying to date me. And that was one of his ways to get me to date him, was to get car insurance for me. So that was something that he did as a gift.
Just a second. Melanie, he was trying to date you. He was trying to pursue you. That adds a new layer to this rather interesting
Actually, both
case.
owners were, actually.
What?
Yeah. The day that we went to go get products in Sausalito, Eric was rubbing my shoulders in front of the guy that we were buying product from.
I don't care, and neither does he. You don't care about rubbing shoulders, do you?
As long as they're not my shoulders.
Yeah. Well, I don't care about rubbing shoulders. All I care about is State Farm insurance for $150. Go someplace else if you want to talk about rubbing shoulders. Now, you allowed him to pay for your insurance, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because he said it was a gift and he wanted to do that for me.
I don't believe you. Okay, listen, Melanie, where do you work now, darling?
I work at a day spa.
What do you do in the day spa?
I'm an esthetician.
How many days a week do you work?
4 days.
What do you do on the 5th day?
I take care of my son.
And on 4 days, working 4 days a week, you're able to support yourself and your child?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, wonderful. So I hope you have the $650 to return to Mr. Mackey. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $650. That's all.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
Roland Berghardt is suing the mother of his child, Starla Reed, for loans for rent and tuition. Starla says Roland owes thousands in back child support.
Order. All rise. Yes, case number 116 on the calendar in the matter of Berghardt versus Reed. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. And have a seat.
Mr. Berghardt, you and Miss Reed had a relationship and you have a child together, is that right?
Yes, 5-year-old Michaela.
Your complaint alleges that you made 2 loans to Miss Reed over a year ago. And in addition to that, she took out a small amount of money, $100 and some odd from a bank account that she should not have, also over a year ago. So far correct?
So far correct.
That you did not pursue this matter during the past year because there were open criminal charges against you for assaulting Miss Reed. You wanted to wait until that case had been resolved before you pursued these loans.
Yes, ma'am.
You were, several weeks ago, convicted after a jury trial
Yes, ma'am.
of assaulting Miss Reed. And now that that has been resolved, you want your money.
Yes.
Miss Reed says that that money was given to her in lieu of child support, and you are currently thousands of dollars in arrears on your child support. One was for college tuition, $975, and one was for rent, $400 for rent. Is that right? Yes, Ms. Reed. And that she did close out a bank account. The bank account was in her name. Yes. So she had the right to close it out. And you are still thousands of dollars in arrears in child support. That's your defense? Yes. When was the first alleged loan, Mr. Berghardt?
Back in March of '04.
What was it for?
She came to me and asked me for help. She was taking college courses, and as you know, when you go to college, if you're only taking a single course, you're not eligible for TAP or Pell. So she needed the money for the college course. And then a month later, she needed money for the rent, and I said, that's fine too. You know, I would help her out with that I would loan her the money for that.
And that's really what you're suing for, as far as the loans are concerned.
Well, yeah, and the 192, I was a trustee. See, I'm disabled, and we wanted to set up a bank account so our daughter Michaela could get the money. Then she found out that I had, by accident, $18,000 of disability, a Social Security disability that I got put into that account by mistake because I was a trustee. They seen my name. So one day I get this call. She's crying about, oh, you got $18,000. Why wasn't I given any of this? It was my disability. It had nothing to do with hers. As far as this money being towards support, if you look at the support...
Just a second.
Okay.
She took $192.
She closed the account out. That's what the balance was when she closed it.
And when was the last time you lived together?
It was around the year 2000. Because Michaela was born, and 6 months later she attacked me. I had just had my knee replaced, and I asked her to leave because we weren't getting along. She was getting too violent.
I didn't ask you to go into that. I'm really not interested. 2000.
Yes.
And has your daughter remained in Miss Reed's custody since?
No.
She was in your custody or in somebody else's custody?
In my custody for 4 years. I had her from Sunday to Friday, and then most of the weekends that she would go out with other people.
Okay, and she would go with her mother?
For the weekend.
For the weekend?
Yes.
Now, is that pursuant to a court order?
No, that was just, she was working, I was disabled, so it was convenient. So for 4 years I did that.
Until when?
Until last year around, it was like June or July. She took me to court for support, and the judge said, I can't give you support. He's got her from Sunday to Friday.
June or July of last year, 2004?
Right. So when she
when
found
was this
out,
alleged assault? When was the assault?
that was over a year ago, about a year.
When?
That was around a little after March, a little after
March of 04?
04.
So right after these two loans or right before these two loans?
No, it was before. The assault was after the loans.
Assault was after the loans?
Right.
But up until June of 04, Michaela was with you?
Yes.
Even after the assault?
Yes. Until she found out she couldn't get support. And when she found out she couldn't get support, the judge said, no, he's with her. Within 10 days, she took my daughter, and I haven't had her back since.
When did the court enter an order of support, Mr. Burkhart?
Around September or October, then she was granted support because then she had my daughter.
May I see the order, please? As of April 2005, sir, the court found you in arrears of $2,116.
Right, and that was because I didn't bring proof of financial, because I'm disabled. I only get $1,300 a month. So they gave an as needs, and you're a family court judge. You know what an as needs is, right? When you don't provide financial
Was that
proof.
order ever modified?
We're going back on the 17th of June.
My question is, was the order ever modified?
The original order was.
This order of arrears.
I don't know. All I can tell you is the original order was $61.
The net due, as of this month,
right,
is $3,255.48.
Right. That will be corrected.
I don't know if it's going to be corrected or not. I have no idea if it's going to be corrected, but right now that's what you owe.
Right.
Well, if that's what you owe, sir, why do you think that I would even entertain a case against her for $1,200?
First of all, she lied to you about this being part of child support. How could I loan her something a year and a half ago or a year ago and base it on child support when there was no child support in effect at that time? So that tells you she's lying.
No, just a second.
Yeah.
No, she's not lying, Mr. Burkhart.
Yes, she is.
What? I get the last word.
Okay.
What she said was you were not paying her child support. She didn't say there was a child support order in effect a year and a half ago. She said you were not paying her child support.
But I was giving her money. There's other money that I'd given her.
What's the nature of your current disability?
My knee and my back.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a special ed teacher.
You have other children?
I have a 17-year-old.
Does that child receive any disability from your Social Security disability?
They get $75 each.
What amount is the order of support, by the way?
I think it's $289 a month, which on a $1,300 income is not quite feasible.
I mean, there is work, sir, that you could do that doesn't involve you moving around.
And what might that be?
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Burkhart. How did you come to California?
On a plane.
And you sat for 5 hours?
Well, yeah, I got up, walked around.
Same way you could sit in your house and do telemarketing.
I probably could.
You can do a lot of things sitting at a desk that don't
Unfortunately,
require...
with the legal matters.
I'm speaking,
okay,
sir.
Excuse me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Somebody who can sit on a plane for 5.5 hours from New York to California can get a different kind of a job that doesn't require him using his knee.
And later today...
You only called her the B word, that's it? Well, is that a nice name, William?
Nope.
Why did you call her a nasty name?
Because she called me the F-word.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Roland Burkhart says the mother of his child, Starla Reed, owes for 2 unpaid loans. Starla claims Roland is a deadbeat dad.
How old are you, sir?
53.
53. Well, you have a 5-year-old daughter. You decided to make a child when you should have been having grandchildren. That's something that you do when you have children to support.
I have a 17-year-old, too.
Listen to me, sir.
All right.
That's something that you have to do. $289 a month support is not a lot of money. It's certainly not half a child's support.
When you're only getting $1,300, that's quite a bit.
That's why you have to get a job,
Unfortunately,
sir.
I'm not allowed to work because of the doctor.
No, you're not allowed to work, sir, because you're getting disability.
Right. Well, until it's done. When the doctor gives me an okay to go back to work, I'll go back to work.
And all I'm saying to you, sir, is that there are things that you can do that don't require you doing anything physical, and that sometimes you have to modify a course in life.
All right.
That's not a joke. I mean, you can either get this federal welfare for disability. There are people who are really legitimately disabled, who can't move, who really can't move. Somebody who can sit on a plane for 5.5 hours from New York to California to try a case can get a different kind of a job that doesn't require him using his knee. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Not just
And
my knee, it's my back.
$289 is not a lot of money. And if the reason you were watching your daughter for 4 years is because you weren't working, which is what you told me, right?
Yes.
I'm telling you that you should get a job.
Yes, I will.
Get a
as soon
job.
as I'm done.
Good. Good. And, sir, I'm going to dismiss your case without prejudice for the following reason. I am not doing a set-off with the money that you allegedly owe Miss Reed for child support. In the event that your arrears are modified to 0, you have leave to get back on the plane and come back from New York and seek this $1,200. However, if the court sees fit to leave the arrears intact, she doesn't owe you a dime. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, the court says he has visitation with my daughter, but she can't spend the night there because his house is unstable for a child to be there.
Eventually, I'm probably going to go to jail because I'm not giving her anything.
They found drug paraphernalia in his house. They found rats in his house.
I have snorted coke for quite a few years. It's good enough for Sigmund Freud.
He is able to get money from the state of New York for his disability, so he's faking that he has one.
You got a mother and father that can't stand each other, and you got a 5-year-old that's in between, and that's the toughest thing that we have to watch out, that we don't hurt Michaela because we don't like each other.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Woodworth versus Rubio Robles. Step forward, please.
Tiffany Woodward is suing the parents of her son's friend, Reynaldo Rubio and Julia Robles, for the cost of the boy's glasses. Tiffany claims 11-year-old Ida Rubio smashed them.
Miss Woodworth, this is your son. He's 7.
Yes, it is.
And Miss Robles, Mr. Rubio, this is your daughter. She's 11.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, these 2 young children play with each other. And for the 3rd time, this little girl broke your son's eyeglasses.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you want Mr. Rubio and Miss Robles to pay for the glasses this
Yes.
time because you can't get him new glasses. Your insurance doesn't cover the cost. All right. Why don't you stand up there next to your mom and dad? Tell me your name.
Ida.
You want to come up here and talk to me?
Sure.
Good.
Thank you.
Is this young man your friend?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you remember the last time his glasses got broken?
No.
Don't know anything about how his glasses got broken.
The first other 2 times, I didn't know, but this time, I didn't break them.
Well, what happened this time?
We were playing, and
Look at me.
we were playing, and he would call me names, and I would tell him names back. He pushed me, and so I pushed him back. He had hit the brick wall, and his glasses had fell. I think he stepped on them, or the lens popped out by himself, because I didn't step on them.
Okay. You can go back down.
Okay.
Okay, William. Hello.
Hi.
Is Ida your friend?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how your glasses got broken.
Ida, she pushed me.
Ida pushed you.
Yeah.
Did you
Then-
call? Just a second.
Then, I pushed her back. Then she pushed me against the brick wall. Then they fell and then she stomped on them.
Were you calling her any names?
I only called her the B word, that's it.
You only called her the B word, that's it? Well, is that a nice name, William?
Nope.
Why did you call her a nasty name?
Because she called me the F word.
Who called who a name first?
Ida. She called me a name first.
So after Ida called you a name, and then you called her a name, who pushed who first?
Ida, she pushed me first.
And then you pushed her back?
And she pushed me again. Then they fell off my face, and she stomped on them.
You've had a couple of pair of glasses break before, is that right, William?
It's not 3, it's 4. It's 4 times she did it.
How did she do it?
Because the last 3 times she punched me in the face and broke him in half. Then the last time she stomped on him.
But you keep playing with Ida. How come?
I don't know. We just keep on fighting them friends.
First you fight and then you're friends again?
Yeah, every time.
Why don't you go and sit down over there? The first couple of times that William told you that Ida had broken his glasses, did you call her parents?
I lived right next door to them. I spoke with them.
Did Mrs. Woodworth speak to you about what happened with Ida?
I don't even recall the first 2 times. I don't remember.
Well, then if she says it happened and you say you don't remember, then it happened.
Well, do you remember?
It never was brought up to my attention about breaking glasses.
What did you tell them?
Well, my husband and I had both asked you if you would speak to Ida, and you guys had spoke to her. You know, my husband and I understand kids will be kids, but after so many times, I can't afford to pay for them, and the insurance won't cover for them anymore.
I got it. Now, Ida, I'm going to see you back here again, right here. Ida, you know what my job is?
Yeah.
What do you think my job is? Come on. You're 11 years old. You know, you're a big girl.
Yeah, but I don't really...
Well, my job is to make sure that I find out what the truth is. That's my job. And I don't think that you've told me the whole truth, Ida. And I've been a judge a very long time. So when you come to court, and Officer Bird says to you, pick up your hand and you swear to tell the truth, and you say yes, you have to tell the truth. Not stories that you've told your parents, not stories that you told anybody else, but when you're in court, you have to tell the truth. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, it's my job to figure out if people tell the truth. And I think he's telling me the truth. I think that you've broken his glasses a couple of times. Is there any reason why you did that? Look at me. Don't look over there. Look at me. Is there any reason why you broke his glasses a couple of times?
Yes, because he gets me mad. He'll call me names and stuff like that.
Well, he can call you names, and do you call him names?
Yes.
Does he break things of yours?
No.
Then why do you break his glasses? Because you get mad?
Well, he'd push me and I'd push him back, but they never broke. Because I never hit him in the face.
Did you ever take off his glasses and break them in two?
No. They could fall and the lint could pop out, or they can accidentally get stepped on if they fall.
They can accidentally get stepped on. They can also get stepped on purpose. You could accidentally step on them, right?
Right.
Go back to your parents. Mrs. Robles, your husband clearly doesn't recall being spoken to by Miss Woodworth about your daughter. You claim not to recall. So I credit her testimony that she did, in fact, speak to you in the past. And I believe that your daughter broke his glasses and stepped on them just as he said that he did. His testimony was direct and straightforward and honest, that they were calling each other names, they pushed each other. Well, that's possible, and once he gets pushed and she gets pushed, that's not I don't have a problem with that, even though kids aren't supposed to touch each other. But I believe him when he says that once the glasses fell off, she stomped on them because she got mad. She's not telling me the truth. And she didn't tell you the truth, if that's what she told you.
So the first 2 times you believe that she broke them in half?
I believe that she broke his glasses before.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that his mother spoke to you about it before. You may not remember.
I don't recall that.
The glasses are $160?
Yes, they are.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $160. I'd have a discussion with her. She's got to learn about truth-telling. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
24-year-old behavioral therapist Jessica Borello is suing 15-year-old Jaron Howard and his father, Jerry Howard, for a refund on merchandise she purchased over the internet. Jessica claims Jaron sold her counterfeit sports jerseys.
Now, this is case number 180 on the calendar in the matter of Borello versus Howard and Howard. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Borello, you found Jaron over here, who is how old, 15, Jaron?
Yes, ma'am.
On the internet.
Initially, I did not know he was 15.
That's not what I said, but you found him on the internet.
Correct.
And somehow went into a business arrangement with him, which you're going to describe to me. He was to provide you with certain merchandise, and you were going to decorate some of the merchandise, and then there were some T-shirts that he sold you that you were going to resell that was supposed to be authentic sports T-shirts. And you gave him how much money?
$3,610 in money orders.
And he doesn't deny that you sent him the $3,610. And is it safe to say, Miss Borello, that the only merchandise that you received is that merchandise that you have there?
These including 2 pairs of shoes.
2 more pairs of shoes?
These are my shoes. I'll explain what they're doing here. But
okay, what's in the box?
These are counterfeit designer jerseys, the initial 15 pair that the defendant had sent me.
By the way, your defense is she got what she paid for, and I'm a minor anyway. So tell me what you were supposed to get for this $3,610.
I was supposed to receive 15 authentic designer jerseys, as well as 14 pairs of shoes for my $3,610. I have a contract if you
Can I see it, please?
Yes. You take notice as well.
Did he sign that contract?
Yes, as well as about 4 other people that I'm not sure who they are.
You understand, Miss Borello, that this isn't a very good contract.
Of course, Your Honor. That's why they took the necessary precautions of sending the money order certified mail.
What I'm telling you is this contract doesn't say much.
A lot of it was verbal agreement, Your Honor.
Well, let's start with this. Contract has to be specific. Now, we're not even getting to the point that young Jaron over here is 15 and can't sign a binding contract. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you understand that?
The first time I made the contract.
So the first time you induced somebody to sign a contract with you, you knew that they could not enforce it against you. You knew that.
Yes, ma'am.
That makes you a scam artist. That makes you into a thief. That means you're taking somebody's money knowing that they can't come against you because you're 15. That's pretty slick. Where'd you learn that? From your father?
No.
I'm serious.
No.
Where did you learn it? You didn't learn it
Nobody.
from your father. I'm sure your father, who's laughing, probably tried to teach you the right thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, so if you didn't learn it from your father, which one of your thug friends did you learn it from?
I don't have any thug friends, Your Honor.
Yes, you do. Thugs are thieves. That's what you did. You entered into a contract with this lady who sent you $3,600 knowing that if something went wrong, she could not come against you because you were a minor. You've just admitted that to me. That makes you a thief. Is that what your father raised?
No, ma'am.
You think that what your son did was wrong?
I think what he did with the contract part was wrong. The part about him sending her the counterfeit or knockoff or whatever the hip-hop culture calls it was correct. He sent those to her, and that's what she wanted. I believe just that she knew that these were
Well, let me
knockoffs.
ask you a question. This question, Mr. Howard. I'm not a genius when it comes to hip-hop clothing, but I am a genius as to what people sell on street corners.
Yes, yes.
And if I can go and if I can buy a T-shirt for $5 on a street corner that's not authentic, why would I pay $100 for it if it was a fake? If I could buy a good fake for $5, why would I pay him $100 for a fake?
Well, Your Honor, I believe that she's in that business of selling counterfeit stuff.
If she's in the business of selling counterfeit stuff, why would she buy stuff from your son at a premium?
That I don't know. He's 15.
Well, it doesn't make sense.
He's 15 years old.
Listen to me, Mr. Howard. He's a 15-year-old slick.
Okay.
Are you following the common sense of what I'm saying to you?
I follow you, Judge.
If I can go to the local guy on the street corner who's selling pocketbooks that look like other pocketbooks that may be in my closet, and if I can buy those for $2 on the corner, why would I send him thousands of dollars over the internet?
Because I believe that she thought she could make a profit. Your Honor,
So just a minute. She could make a bigger profit if she bought it cheaper than $3,600.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jessica Borello says 15-year-old Jaron Howard ripped her off. Jessica says Jaron sold her over $3,000 in counterfeit sports jerseys.
How do you feel?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're all right?
Yes.
You didn't have lunch today?
Breakfast. Breakfast.
Not enough. Did you get something?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, we were on you, Jaron.
Yes, ma'am.
She was supposed to get a lot more merchandise than she got, Jaron. What happened to it?
Well, after she got this merchandise, I told her I had $900 left, and I told her that
$900 left out of the $3,600?
Yes.
No, you mean that stuff, just a second. Shh. That stuff that she has there, these counterfeit T-shirts and 2 pairs of shoes, cost $2,700?
Yes.
How much profit did you make, Jaron?
I only made $50 per jersey.
You made $50 per jersey.
Yeah, but I get the jerseys for $100, and I sold it to her for $150.
A piece?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Meanwhile, she didn't get everything that you guaranteed that she was going to get. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what you want her to do is you want her to accept partial merchandise, and you'd be prepared to give her back some money.
No, the rest of the money was going towards shoes, and the shoes that she wanted, they were $79 a piece. And there was no more shoes in the city, so I couldn't get them, so I was going to send her money back.
So did you send her money back?
No, I told her I was going to send her money back. She told me she had an emergency and to don't send the money back, and I never heard from her then.
Why would I have you not send my money back?
All right. Miss Barillo, were you under the impression that these were regulation, authentic T-shirts?
Correct. Yes, Your Honor.
What happened when you went to try to sell them?
I initially got the jerseys. They look great. I thought I've never seen an authentic jersey before. So they look great. I went to my local malls. I met a sales representative. I showed him the jerseys. He took 2 samples. He turned out to be a sales representative for this jersey company who was working alongside a private investigator. He was trying to get me to go to jail because he thought I was running the scamming business of selling fraudulent jerseys. He found out that I did not even know Jaron. I had nothing to do with knowing that these were counterfeit jerseys.
Can I see one?
Yes. You can, if you'd like to see the difference, the company has actually lent us borrow a real jersey, and this is a fraudulent jersey. You can see the difference.
Real.
And now that I just...
Could I see this, what she's talking about, the stitching on the side? Or, I don't know. You know, sewing was never one of my strong suits. That along with cooking and anything else domestic. Okay.
Well, the color scheme is different.
Oh, look at that. And I didn't realize that.
And the tag, Your Honor, it's very poorly.
Whatever. Somebody looks at it fast, like me, who doesn't know one group from the next. They look pretty close to me. Okay, so they're fakes, right?
Yes.
Jaron, they're fakes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you know you can't sell fakes, right?
Yes.
You knew that before.
Well, yeah.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
You knew that if you got caught selling fakes, that they would close you down if they could find you on the internet, didn't you?
Yes.
And did you figure that they couldn't hurt you because you were 15?
No.
Did you think that they could send you to jail?
I never thought about it.
What would you think about? Did you think about the fact you were doing the wrong thing?
No, I never thought I was doing the wrong thing.
Well, you knew they were fakes. You knew you're not allowed to sell fakes. You just told me that.
I know.
Well, then you knew you were doing the wrong thing. So, you know where you got these fake T-shirts from?
Yes, the internet.
From the internet. Well, the internet doesn't have a brain. It doesn't eat. It doesn't go out to the movies. It doesn't go out to... You got it from somebody through the internet.
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that?
It was a website. They said they had a place in New York because the address is in New York.
Did you ever go there?
No, I've never been there.
Did you ever call there?
No, I never called.
And when was the last time you purchased from them, Jaron?
The time I brought these jerseys, about a year ago.
Why'd you stop?
The jerseys were out of style. I couldn't sell them, I couldn't wear them.
And you miraculously stopped a year ago? Was she your only customer?
I was selling jerseys to my friends and stuff.
And your friends were buying them from you?
Yes, ma'am.
Because they like the fakes, right?
I guess, yes. Yes, ma'am.
See that box of junk over there?
Yeah.
It goes back to Jaron.
Okay.
Those are your shoes?
These are my
Now you
shoes.
want to tell me the story about the shoes?
This is just initially how he contacted me. I do shoes like this, and I had a pair on eBay. And he wanted me to initially do some shoes for him. He said he did the same thing by painting shoes and selling them.
Is that what you did?
Yes, I did them for myself mostly.
He said he sold them to rap stars.
No.
So that's how you got started.
Initially,
All right, those
No,
are
I didn't say I sold them to rap stars.
Yes, you
okay?
did, Jaron.
Where are the two pairs? I'm not so sure you're completely innocent in this whole thing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
If you took the keys and you put them in your pocketbook and you put your pocketbook under your pillow where you slept, nobody would have gotten their hands on the car keys.
You put your keys under your pillow when you sleep.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jessica Borello says 15-year-old Jaron Howard ripped her off. Jessica says Jaron sold her over $3,000 in counterfeit sports jerseys.
Okay. Mr. Howard, you are responsible, sir.
Yes, I am.
You are responsible because he's your son. You knew what he was doing. All you had to do was ask the questions that I'm asking, and you would have recognized, if you didn't at
Yes,
the
Your
time,
Honor.
that your son was doing the wrong thing.
Right.
So you and your son are getting back all that junk over there, and she's going to see to it that you get the 2 pair of shoes as well that you have. Clear?
Clear.
Good. What?
There were 4 pair of shoes.
Show me that you delivered 4 pair of shoes.
There were 4. There were
I
4
will
pair of
buy you
shoes.
2 extra
No,
pairs.
just a
Jaron.
second. Did he give you 4 pairs or 2 pairs?
2 pairs.
अल्लाह का शुक्र वद्दे फरोका मजदूरी दे क्या करो मजदूरी तो पहले है हाँ सा है कि बैंक कमा कमा थक पा हों तक खाऊं को मुकाऊं इंशाल्लाह ईद के बाद बस होता हाँ हाँ काम नाल तक आपको पता है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह जवेदा घर है
घर पे कितना बिल्डिंग ने काम दे होंगे
हाँ
लगा पे बिल्डिंग से
बिल्डिंग तो लगा पे
यार तू मेरा आली हुनर मुंडा ने मैं क्या ना सऊदी में नहीं ना दुबई में नहीं
कि था ही नहीं सब ना टुक कोरी था ही मिलता पे
अच्छा
हाँ
थोड़ा जाम से करा मेरे अच्छा
हाँ
शाह साहब को नीना पे हमें उधरान से कि नहीं घर जल्दी पे आ
शाह साहब को आज कहते जो बोतल सा को पिला
क्या कहती
आज दी आज हर रहा तो को सा पिलाऊं खड़ा
मुदीर है मैं ना
हाँ हाँ
मुदीर भी जा दाल थीने मैंने बोतल दा पिले
बोतल पिला रहा
इवे दा नहीं बनदे मुदीर दा
पक्की गल
नहीं पड़दा बड़ा जरा मुदीर बने पीछे रोटी की
ओ-
साथी चावणी को
वो तो पक्की गल है
इवे दा नहीं बनदे मुदीर बंदे
पक्की गल है
अच्छा वो जुन्ने दा कोई यार जुन्ना किथा है
जुन्ना वद्दे टाइम पास करना
ना ही काम ते लगा पे
हाँ
या इमा दे मारे ताए अपना शनाख्ती कार्ड मुले नहीं बनवाया
बोले रोदन जमड़ा
जमड़ा के नहीं
जम
ला देने
ओदन जमड़ा हो
जमड़ा ते जला कड़े ना भी तेरा काम ही पास है सारा
ओदन जमड़ा और निकले तो निकले
जमड़ा यूनियन कौन सा
पैसे तो लगता
हां पैसे लक्ष्मी यूनियन
जम्मा ही गए नहीं ना
वो इना मसला है
हाँ
पैसे गिनसी तब जमड़ा बड़े सी बना के
आया
ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਜੰਮੜਾ ਚਾਹੀ ਵੈਸੇ
हाँ
ਸ਼ਨਾਖਤੀ ਕਾਰਡ ਦੇ
और निकाह तो है पिया निकाह
ਨਿਕਾਹ ਇਲਾ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੇ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਜੰਮੜੇ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੇਖ ਨਾ ਜੰਮੜਾ ਦਾ ਗੁਜਰਾ ਡੇ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਨਿਕਾਹ ਵਾਲੇ ਉਹ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ
आया
ਉੱਥਾਂ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਮਿਲਣਾ ਪੋਸੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਪੋਸੀ
आया
ਪਿਓ ਕੋ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਪੋਸਿਆ
अच्छा
ਉਹਦਾ ਨਿਜ਼ਾਮ ਦਾ ਫਿੱਟ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ
जो
21 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਬਣਵੇ ਨਹੀਂ
तकरीबन निकाह तो उम्र 20 साल लिखी गई
20 ਸਾਲ ਲਿਖੀ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਹੁਣ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ 21 ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਉਮਰ ਦੇ ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਕਿਆ ਪਦਰੀ
हाँ हाँ साल छा
ਮਾਰ ਰਮਜ਼ਾਨ ਆ ਗਏ ਮਾਰ ਰਮਜ਼ਾਨ ਦੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਤੇ ਹੀ
पहले था यही
21 ਸਾਲ ਉਹ ਥੀ ਨਾ ਪਏ
हाँ 21 साल
ਬਣਾ ਰਹੇ ਸਨ ਭਲਾਈ ਚੱਲ ਵੇ ਨੇ 21 ਸਾਲ 5 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਨਾ
हाँ
21 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਉਹ ਚੱਲ ਵੇ ਨੇ ਸਮਝੀ ਜਾਓ
हाँ एक निसब बन में असा तरह जमड़े कटवा के नो 1 साल ब्याह जम्बो
ਜੰਮੜਾ ਕਢਾਉਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਣ ਹੋਈ ਲੈਣਾ ਦੇ ਸੀ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਦੇ ਲੱਗ ਵੇ ਸੰਦੇ ਕੋ ਜੰਮੜੇ ਦੇ
महीना लागवे थे
हौला शनाख्ती कार्ड बनवे थे बेस्ट है तो वीज़ा मिलवे थी सऊदी दा इतना दिखे ही नहीं उते निकलवे थे इयो काम में ना तो ही वही मार
पक्की गाल है इतना मुलाज़ाब वो टुकर है
इतना वो जरा कर रहा थे शाम को वो ही कहें भी
पक्की
जो गिनसे जो वैसी पिया
तो साफ ज़ाहिर है
हाँ लादे में उदा इतना जरा बंदा शादीशुदा थी गया उनकी जे पे नहीं खड़ दे
कश्ये नहीं खड़
बिल्कुल नहीं खड़ दे
यकीन है 11,000 रुपये कबूतर वेचे में सुनदा भाई 6,000 रुपये हफ्ता बने हाथ तो 5-6,000 रुपया करदा ही था बेटा और बैठा घर
बोला आई देवने में ये पाकिस्तान है ये बंदे को बुलाई पे बुलाई पे मजदूरी हुई जाने 1,000 रुपया होती गति जाके
ना 900 है
900 तो वो बेदेने में मजदूरी वाले
पर लगती ज्यादा है
दू काम ही लग में नहीं
हाँ हाँ
बोला तो ठीक है
वो
छोटे मोटे काम आवे में
वो दू कम में वास्ते है
अच्छा कितनी देवे में
मुझे 3-4 थे अब
थोड़ा जाऊते
होड़ थी से उतना
अच्छा जले थोड़ा जाऊते थी वेला बंद कर
ठीक
अरे
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह
मुझे यार मुझे जाकी दी वजह आने हो ना तोड़े यार ना कोई कशे गुमगार
हाँ ओ मको मिलिए ओ मिलिए इत
मिल गए
हाँ इत कितना मिलिए पीटी वाला मोड़ है
पूरा ऑटो फिर थी ना बता
हाँ में